So my name is Sarah Ward. I, at one point, was an addict, and I am now in recovery. And most importantly, I am now a child of God. And because of that, I don't have to go by those, those labels anymore. I'm a child of God, right? So my story starts when I was around 12 years old. That was the earliest time that I can remember dealing with anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation. And by the time I was 13, I was put on medication from my doctor. And by the time I was 14, I was using weed and alcohol to cope. From as long as I can remember, I had this hole in my chest, in my heart, and I used so many external things to fill that hole, right? And by the time I was 21, I was bartending full time, and I was living right above the bar. So my entire life was consumed by alcohol. Eventually, I would stay in the bar until 4 o'clock in the morning or so, drinking, closing the bar, and then I would go upstairs and I would drink more until I passed out, and I would go to work the next day, and it was just on repeat over and over and over. And eventually this started affecting my ability to work at this job, right? And so by the time I was 22, I was offered cocaine. And I was told, hey, this will help while you're drinking, This will help give you some energy. This will help you to keep doing the job the way that you want to, right? So it did at first, but eventually it turned into a nightmare. And I ended up spending every penny that I made just to be able to do the job again, right? So I wasn't progressing in any way. And eventually somebody came in and once again said, hey, I have something that is way cheaper. It lasts way longer. And I was for it. I was like, okay, the next thing, right? Because I kept needing to fill this hole in my heart. What's the next thing? The next thing that's gonna keep giving me that sense of joy, right? And so by the time I was 23, I tried methamphetamine for the first time. And this was different. Before I knew it, I had lost my job. I had lost my apartment. I had lost everything. I was homeless, broken, and that hole in my heart, though, had a fake plug in it still. Because what these drugs do in your mind is they increase your serotonin and your dopamine receptors through the roof. So it doesn't matter what's happening in your life, you're happy, or you feel like you're happy, right? You're content as long as you can keep chasing that drug, right? And I fell so deep into my addiction, chasing that feeling. I lived in these trap houses, and I was around guns. I've had guns pulled on me. I was abused for everything that I have. I was in abusive relationships with different men. I was at my absolute bottom, right? I remember sitting one day, and I was just thinking, like, I will never get clean. This is how the rest of my life is gonna be, right? And just trying to picture that, and it was just, well, I'm probably not gonna live very long anyway, right? This is how the rest of my life is gonna be. And I was drowning. One day I was given drugs that were laced with fentanyl, and I crashed my car, and my entire car was smashed. The whole front end, it was completely totaled. My leg was trapped in the front like part of the car because it was all smushed, and I couldn't even get out of my car. And by the grace of God, I walked out of my car once I, got those pieces to move, and I have a scratch on my leg, and I survived that, right? That was the first time that I started to be at a crossroad and to take a look at my life and say, wow, there's no way that I survived that without angels protecting me, right? There's no way. And so eventually, not right away, but eventually, that really put that like mustard seed, that they talk about into my heart, and something just kept telling me that this was the way that I needed to go, right? And as Pastor Kevin talked about, I was running this way, I didn't think that I deserved a good life, right? Because I had done all of these things, and eventually I turned myself into jail because I had warrants. I had been arrested over and over, and I got bonded out or left or whatever, and so I had warrants, and I turned myself into jail. And right away, my lawyer came and talked to me, and he said, "Look, Sarah, it's not looking good. You have 3 felonies. Your minimum guidelines are over a year. You're going to prison, and there's nothing we can do," right? So that night, I went back to my cell, and everyone was talking, "Well, how'd it go? Da 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 da," and there's so many people in this cell, and I just went and took a shower. I was like, I need some quiet, right? And it wasn't quiet, because everyone's talking and fighting and arguing, and it's such a angry place, right? And so I go into the shower, and I sat down there's like a little bench in there, and I sat down, and for that moment, everything felt silent, right? And I just had the water running over me. And I remember for the first time and probably ever, I actually got down on my hands and knees, and I said, "God, I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. I don't even know if you're real, but I need some help, And I just felt the presence of God for the first time in my life, and his arms wrapped around me. And I heard him say, he said, "I've had you this whole time, Sarah. You keep turning from me. You keep running from me. I've got you, and I felt like he took all of that all of those emotions. I was so scared, and he took that all from me, and he said, "Just follow me. Just come this way. I've got you." Like the father that he is, he said, "Come on, I'll lead you. We've got this," right? And so for the first time, that feeling that I was searching for my whole life wasn't from some external source. It was from the God that was within me, right? And so from that minute, I decided I wanted to follow God, and I didn't know how, I didn't know where. I was very new to the whole thing, right? But Jesus performs miracles. And a week later, my lawyer had called me back out, and I was like, "Man, this is really scary. This is a lot, right? I'm going to prison." And I was told that I was offered a court program called Journey Court. It's 3 years. It's very intensive. It's very long. But it was exactly what I needed, and I didn't end up having to go to prison. I did stay in jail. I went to rehab. I was in inpatient treatment. I was away from home for over a year, getting the help that I needed, right? And by January, so by the new year, I will have no felony record. So now, every day, I have a position here in Lansing, and I get to work every day in a residential addiction treatment facility, and I get to share the love that I found of Jesus, and I get to help people who were like me and in their absolute bottom, right? And I get to do that every day because of Jesus, right? And because of the love of Jesus, I never have to use drugs again, because that hole in my heart is full. So I looked it up earlier today, and today I have 850 days clean. I was like, wow, that's a lot of days, but I heard somebody say that testimony means do it again, right? And if there's anybody out there that's struggling, I mean, everybody struggles with something, right? So if you're struggling today, just know that you can get out. You can be free. It's not over. You're not too old. It's not too late. Turn to Jesus, and he did it for me, and he'll do it for you too. The love of Jesus will get you through anything. Thank you, guys.